We're gonna roll back a little bit towards the beginning of the sugya of Kiddush HaChodesh, and deal with some fundamental halachas of Kiddush HaChodesh, but also fundamental constructs and concepts in the world of halacha. And we'll pose this as somewhat of a question. The din is that, just before that, the astronomical reality, as we've pointed out, is that the new moon will either appear, practically speaking, on day 30 or day 31, meaning that the first day of the new month is either going to be, hey, welcome. The first, we just started a second ago. The first day of the new month is either going to be on day 30 of the previous month or on day 31 of the previous month, meaning a month is only two options, either 29 days or 30 days. By day 31, it is always not day 31, it is day 1, right? There's no such thing as 31 days in a month because the lunar cycle is not that long. Okay, good. That being the case, the Torah gives a number of general rubrics for how to figure out when the month should begin. And there's two separate systems. One system is chishuv, is calculations. Now, these calculations are calculations that Chachamim do in the base medrash that are ratified, verified, recalculated by the Chachamim in the Sanhedrin, the Lishkas HaGazis. Right, that was the area that the Sanhedrin sat in the Beis HaMikdash. Or, as we've noted before, if the Sanhedrin is not in the Beis HaMikdash, if they're in exile, as they were for many years after the Churban, wherever the major seat of rabbinic power was in Eretz Yisrael, that was the place that Kiddush HaChodesh in general occurred. Alternatively, or congruently, there's also like this reality of two individuals coming along and saying, we saw the new moon. And the question is, how do these two things interplay with each other? Because one thing is obvious, and that is that you don't always need two witnesses. Case in point, now. Right? There's no two witnesses that showed up letting us know. I mean, today is the 29th day of the month of Av. Tomorrow, right, there are no witnesses showing up. There's no witnesses showing up to say that Rosh Chodesh is... And on Shabbos already, we said that Rosh Chodesh is going to be on Wednesday.
So the amount of time it took for the witnesses to get from wherever they saw the new moon,
right,
to the Sanhedrin could be more than a day.
It could be more than a day.
So they get there and they say, oh, by the way, yesterday was Rosh Chodesh.
So this is a separate question, whether or not you could declare Rosh Chodesh L'Mafreya.
But what does it help? If there was special like Korbanot or whatever for Rosh Chodesh, you missed it.
Right. So the question is, can you go back? Can you go back and say, actually, it was a 29-day month, and yesterday was Rosh Chodesh? That's a question of being Mekadosh Chodesh L'Mafreya. That's, we'll see if we have time. We'll get to that. But that notwithstanding, take a look on page Nun Gimel. We're going to take a look at Oz Beis. This is right over here in the middle of the page, where the Minchas Chinuch says as follows. He says, "Hinei mitzvah zu shel Kiddush HaChodesh hi mitzvah shel Beis Din." The mitzvah of Kiddush HaChodesh is a mitzvah of Beis Din, sheyechashvu v'yedu im yira hayerech alai, that they should calculate and figure out, has the new moon been seen or not? Right, that's all yours. Right, has the new moon been seen or has it not? Umachashvin kedash umachashvin ha itztagninim, and they calculate the same way as astronomers calculate. Right, meaning this is not a halacha calculation. This is an astronomical calculation. This is figuring out what's the physics, what's the astronomy, what's the likelihood that we've seen a new moon or not, and that requires understanding astronomy. It says, important to differentiate astronomy versus astrology, right? This is not astrological calculation. This is astronomical calculation. It says, and then they need to know, is it possible that the new moon has appeared tonight, which is the night of the 30th, meaning the 29th day has finished. Now it is sunset, and tomorrow we're going to sit and wait. Are witnesses coming? So first thing that they need to figure out is when witnesses come and they say, we saw the moon last night, was that possible? Was it possible that they saw the new moon last night? That requires a deep understanding of astronomy. It says, and if they know that it's possible, if there's a possibility that you could have seen the new moon last night, they sit the whole of the 30th day, meaning they open the courthouse and they sit waiting. They sit waiting to see what's going to be. And if two guys show up and they say, we saw the new moon, and they then interrogate them and they investigate them and they say, where did you see it? What side of the sky and what time of night? And what did it look like? And where were you standing and where was it? Meaning they're figuring out because they know where it is possible. This is not something that your average layman understands, certainly not well. But this is something that is possible. So then they sit, they wait, and the guys show up and they figure out when exactly is the new moon possible to be seen. And if everything checks out, Mekachana say, well, then today is Rosh Chodesh. Last month was a 29-day month. Today is Rosh Chodesh. It says, V'im lo yibau edim ad halayla hachodesh mu'bar. And if witnesses didn't show up until the night, meaning it's now nighttime, of the end of the 30th day, everybody daven mincha, daven mariv, went home, had dinner. No witnesses have showed up. So then, by default, tomorrow is day one. Is Rosh Chodesh, right? By default, tomorrow is Rosh Chodesh because the lunar cycle is never.
More than 31.
It's impossible. More than 30, right? Day 31 is day one. No ways that it ever goes beyond that. Okay. Since the Rosh Chodesh it becomes Rosh Chodesh on day 31. And you know with absolute certainty that Rosh Chodesh is going to be on day 31. Now, this is also why, I think we pointed this out before, the halacha is that if you forgot to say Yalav V'Yava at Mariv of Rosh Chodesh, you don't repeat the Shemona Esrei. Why?
Because do you not repeat Mariv in general?
No, you repeat Mariv. Okay. If you forgot to say Yalav V'Yava, right, you've davened, a weekday Shemona Esrei for the first night of Pesach. You'd absolutely repeat the Shemona Esrei, and you would repeat the Shemona Esrei if you didn't say Yalav V'Yava on any other day of Pesach.
Is it because that's just the beginning of the day? You have the rest of the day, Shachrit and Mincha the following.
Yeah, but we have that for everything. Now, the reason that Yalav V'Yava specifically of Mariv Rosh Chodesh, you'd never have to repeat your Shemona Esrei is, well, it is Rosh Chodesh, but it was never known to be Rosh Chodesh with certainty until the next day. Meaning, when would witnesses come?
They could still come, you're saying, after Mariv.
No.
They would come the next day.
Witnesses, the Beis Din doesn't operate during the night
We
time.
wouldn't know.
It was only confirmed during the day.
So,
Now we know, but we
right?
wouldn't know.
So on day 30,
It's possible you only know retroactively.
right? No, it's impossible that you would know any other way than retroactively,
You only know retroactively.
right? Mariv of Rosh Chodesh is always retroactive.
But this is like a circular reference.
Why?
Because we're saying it's Rosh Chodesh. So you're supposed to say Yalav V'Yava.
Correct.
But if you didn't say it, you don't have to repeat it because we wouldn't have known it's Rosh Chodesh till tomorrow anyway.
Correct.
You see the circular
Correct.
reference?
So why do we say Yalav V'Yava? Because it's Rosh Chodesh Misafek. The din is that it's Rosh Chodesh Misafek. It could be Rosh Chodesh now. It could be day 30 now, not Rosh Chodesh.
What are the stakes if you get it wrong? You say it and
Yeah.
So if you repeat Shemona Esrei, it could be all be bracha levatala.
what does that from me?
You've said brachos without needing to. You just
And the effect
That's
is
yeah, so we don't say Hashem's name without you don't say Shakolnia B'dvar 500 times, right? If you're not sure if you said a shakel on a cup of Coke, so then you don't repeat the shakel, because in terms of the weight of saying Hashem's name unnecessarily, invoking the name of God without reason, versus not saying a bracha, so we are more cautious than we are excited to say the name of Hashem.
Ever do the new month?
At night. That's what I'm saying. Why would you ever do it at night?
So because it has the din of Rosh Chodesh Misaveh. It could be Rosh Chodesh now. There's no Shem Hashem that you're inserting in the Yalav V'Yava.
Are
you always say Ya'alev Yavo if there is doubt, if you're not sure?
Yes,
Just
meaning
those
we
two.
have whenever we have a Yom Tov Sheni or a Yom Tov Midrabanan, the second Elokeinu v'Elokei Avosenu. So it's true. Sorry, there's no additional bracha.
Yeah.
There's no additional bracha. It's within the bracha already.
No, but I think that's what we're asking the same question, is that if we're concerned, like we're trying to work out what's the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
It seems here that the worst case scenario is that we're going to invoke the name of God unnecessarily.
Right.
If it is Rosh Chodesh and we invoke it, we don't really need to, because you would only know tomorrow anyway that it was Rosh Chodesh.
Right. So
why ever make the attempt?
So why ever
because we do know that it's Rosh Chodesh.
Not for certain.
No, we know with certainty because our calendar is
I'm
set.
saying now it is.
Correct. Nowadays
What was
we
it
do
then-
know with
what was it
certainty.
then back then?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting question. Meaning whether or not they had Ya'alev V'Yavo in the days of the Beis Hamikdash.
What could have been the intentionality about how that looked like? Was it an anticipation that
Yeah.
man will develop the mathematic and astronomical?
No, so that's the point. Is, and this is what we're going to get into here, is how much do they actually rely on witnesses? Because it's very clear that the first thing that the Minchas Chinuch pointed out, and this is all coming from the Rambam, he's paraphrasing a number of and summarizing a number of paragraphs out of the Rambam here. The first thing to point out is that the Beis Din knew exactly when to expect witnesses to come, and they needed to know the practicality of whether or not the witnesses could have seen a new moon.
You also said earlier that today we don't need witnesses. We don't actually need
Correct.
Witnesses, so we're not technically waiting for the witnesses.
We're not waiting for
confirm-
witnesses
the
at all
Witnesses
today.
confirming are secondary. That really we know even the night prior.
Right.
So it's okay to say Ya'alev V'Yavo because we're not.
Because
actually
but we
waiting
haven't
for those
declared it
witnesses.
Rosh Chodesh until tomorrow.
What's the point of the declaration then?
Okay, so the declaration.
What cannot
so
be done before the declaration? Like, what
What
does
does it
that
do?
establish?
What does it
Good.
It was a point.
all good questions. That's what we're here to figure out. What does it do? What have you done? What happens if you done? Okay, so let's take a look. Yeah.
So the fact is, we can determine when Rosh Chodesh is nowadays, and we take it upon ourselves to do it. Is it still a national thing? Like
Yes.
you're describing?
Yes.
So we all know, or is it like all centralized now?
Well, it's still centralized.
It's still
It was
centralized.
always centralized,
Okay.
and it has to be centralized because if we have separate days of when Rosh Chodesh is, then we have separate.
So who determines
Pesach.
that nowadays? Who's the posek?
So Hillel II.
You said last
In
week
the-
it's running out in like 200 years.
It might run out in the next 200 years. We'll get there. We'll get to those.
We have it all
What?
established already.
In the next 200 years.
Also, we already
That's
have
right.
established the calendar.
Yes.
So
Since the 300s.
The RCA or something, or whatever that is in Israel. will take care of it.
No, this is Klal Yisrael, the entirety of the Jewish people. Yeah.
I'm saying whatever the Israeli body is.
Maybe. Maybe. We'll get there. Okay. So he says like this. He says, "V'im yoda al pi cheshbon she'einu nir b'yom shloshim," and if they know according to the astronomical calculations that it's impossible that you saw the new moon last night, not 30. It says, "Ein yoshim yom shloshim, ve'ein matam leidim klal." Then the Beis Din does not wait for witnesses to show up. Meaning, if two guys showed up and said, "Hey, we saw the new moon last night," the Beis Din knows with absolute total certainty that they're lying. He says, "Ve'im bo edim heim edi sheker." They don't even interview them. All that they do is they're like, "Shkoch, remind us to put you on the list of people to never trust." That's all that happens. We know with certainty you're lying. Say what?
And meetings for lying.
Well, no. So they don't get beaten for lying because they haven't. We don't let them give testimony.
Oh, we don't even let them.
We're not-
If
we're-
they did,
We're not even
they get
opening the
sworn in.
courthouse for them,
Yeah.
right?
There's no benefit of a beating.
Right.
You're not even allowed to lie. You're
Right.
let them talk.
We don't open the door for them. Bye bye. There's no interest. It's okay. So the Chazon Mavur Rambam kan Perek Aleph Halacha Vav B'Shinuk Tzatz B'Shinuk Lashon Tzatz. This is all of this is in the first parak of the Rambam. Okay. Zvain Sham B'Mefarish Kasavatam De'im Al Pi HaCheshbon Hu Yom Shloshim. If the day is day 30, Mikol Makom Ein Mashgichim B'Cheshbon Ad She'avo Edim Shnir Halavana. Now this is interesting. So they know that last night you could have seen the new moon. So what does that mean?
Where were they headed? Why didn't they go look?
So it was possible to see the new moon. So then why are you waiting for witnesses? You know that the new moon could be seen. Now, maybe it was cloudy, right? But you know that today should be Rosh Chodesh.
You're saying even if it's cloudy, it's still Rosh Chodesh.
Right. So just declare today to be Rosh Chodesh. You hear the question? Meaning, if the whole thing's already been figured out, you know, I mean, because you need that, like, by definition, in order to interview the witnesses, in order to do the Kiddush HaChodesh, which is the interrogation and investigation, you need to know whether or not it was possible for them to have seen it or not. So then why do you need them? I mean, but what's the point of that?
It feels like people feel involved.
They feel
Yeah.
is geschmack,
No,
right?
but it is. It's like a partnership.
Right. So what? So what? So what?
It's supposed to be centralized because it's supposed to be a national thing.
National, but again, you know
Now we're
what it's supposed to be.
challenging that, or what do you mean?
I'm asking.
Are we challenging that?
Yes.
Like, why is that so important?
Yeah, I'm asking. That's the question that he's asking here.
Principle. When she sold cake mixes originally, no egg was necessary. Housewives didn't trust it. It was too easy. So she added the egg as a necessary component so housewives would feel involved and like it was almost all egg. This is that.
So here's the problem.
Doesn't it make sense though that there's some partnership?
Yes.
That Hashem isn't just saying.
And
It's like no, Hashem puts the mazalot in place of the sky.
Okay, but sure. Then what do you need witnesses for? The Beis Din is representative of the Jewish people.
they're just sending the information. Are they messengers?
What? Maybe.
Are they
Okay.
just messengers at the end of the day from some rabbi who's sitting on top, or a group of rabbis that are controlling all the women?
Exactly. Right.
Controlling the weather.
That's why not both? Why not both? It's, as to your egg in the cake batter analogy, wrong. Wrong. And I'll tell you why. Because this is very
Make
Rambamish.
us feel like we have power.
No, this is very Rambamish. Just know this in general. Is the Torah by definition expects us to be not idiots,
Okay.
The tall order.
right?
That's the origin of the Ashkenazi.
That's me.
What if you can't help it?
Right. Well, so then that's a problem. But Moshe Rabbeinu says in Sefer HaChinuch, says that what's the purpose of the Jewish people doing everything that we do and being successful as we are, so that the nation of the world should look at us and go, wow, look at how gosh darn smart these guys are. We should be more like them. Yeah, it's a pasuk, right? I'm saying no. If we do it right, Rak am chacham v'navan hagoy hagadol hazeh, right? Look at how smart these people are. The point is that people should look at us and go, wow, they're not idiots. I mean, the Torah doesn't speak to idiots. That's not like, you have a principle in Shas in general, many times, that the Gemara will have an akimta. An akimta means a way of setting up a Mishnah to make it make sense. Meaning the case of the Mishnah or the halach of the Mishnah doesn't make sense. So we need to explain that the Mishnah is missing some details. What is the specificity of the case of the Mishnah is talking about? So sometimes the Amoraim will make a suggestion. Well, maybe the Mishnah is talking about case X, but case X requires somebody to be doing an Avera. And the Gemara will be like, no, we reject that premise because we're not talking to idiots or sinners. Meaning, we're talking, what's the halacha? Expecting that people are not being stupid. People that are like not trying to do the wrong thing, right? We're not talking to criminals, crooks, and morons. We're talking to normal people that are smart, that understand. So what's the point of having these witnesses? What are they showing up for if the Beis Din already knows what the halacha is supposed to be? That's the question that he's asking. So let's take a look at it. It says, if you know that it's impossible that the witnesses could see anything, so then you kick the witnesses out of court. You don't even let them speak. So to shut down the witness testimony, we certainly do that in accordance with the cheshbon, with the calculations. So why do you need to accept them at all? You know whether or not there was a new moon last night. You know it. It says v'hu mishum she'ein anu soimchim ela al shnehem ke'echad. So says the Ben Chaschina something interesting. It says it seems to be that in order to declare the month Mekudesh, you need two things. you need both hacheshbon, you need the calculation, v'gam edei hariyah, and also witnesses. Meaning one of them is insufficient. Either of them is insufficient. Hold on, let's put this on do not disturb so that we are not disturbed. Right? These things are insufficient as individual items. You need both things. You need both a calculation and you need two witnesses. Keep that in mind. Says Minchas Chinuch, it seems to be you need both. You can't have a Beis Din willy-nilly deciding that today Rosh Chodesh in accordance with their calculation. That's insufficient. You need witnesses in order for the Beis Din to have the power and authority to declare this as Rosh Chodesh. It says Al Kain. It says Al Kain Bereisha. After Al Pi Cheshbon Nirez Mikol Malcolm Shichem B'Hamdin Leidim. It seems to be that even though you know that the new moon was should have, would have, could have shut up last night, if you don't have witnesses, you don't declare it Rosh Chodesh. You don't have the authority to do so. So the Sefer Afal Pi Sheyesh Edim, and if you have witnesses, Kaven Di Efshar Liyos Kain Al Pi Achashban Al Kain Ein Mekachim. And if you have witnesses, but you know that the calculation doesn't work out, you also don't declare Rosh Chodesh. Meaning you need two things. You need both an accurate calculation, and you also need two witnesses. Everybody with me so far? Those are the two ingredients. Okay. Now's where things are going to get a little bit Labor Day. How does this whole declaring the new moon thing work? It says, and this is what comes up in Masechet Rosh Hashanah a number of times, on the top of the left-hand column on page Nun Gimel, the paragraph beginning with V'zeh. It says, what do you need? You need two witnesses that are going to come and say, I saw the new moon. It says, if the witnesses came on day number 30, you declare the new month to be Rosh Chodesh. So the Rosh Beis Din Omer Mekudash, and the Rosh Beis Din stands up and he goes, Mekudash. Everybody goes, Mekudash, right? That's the new month is Mekudash. What does the word Mekudash mean? Holy. What does holy mean? Separated. Not just separated. The word Kadosh means two things.
Sanctified.
So it means Parush u Muvdal. It means separated and elevated simultaneously. Right? Both things. Separated and elevated. This is an important word to be able to translate and to translate accurately, because the word holy in English does very little for us. Right? I don't know what holy means. Right? Right. Old socks.
What? Socks.
Old socks are holy. That's right. Or
Sanctified.
Swiss cheese, right? Swiss cheese. What?
Sanctified.
Sanctified is also a little bit hard to figure out what that means. I don't know what
Does that
sanctified.
also mean devoted?
No,
You say
that's an
devoted.
emotional
How
thing.
do you say devoted in Hebrew?
Devekus.
Smile on your face.
No.
What?
Mekudash.
That's in modern Hebrew,
Yes.
but that's
That
incorrect.
doesn't count.
That was made by atheists and commies.
So
What do they know?
La halacha, modern Hebrew doesn't have the din of lashon kodesh in many applications. In many applications it does, but with regards to, it's just worth knowing that we have a number of stories of Ben Yehuda knocking on Rav Kook's door
Yeah.
to ask Rav Kook shalas in Hebrew language, because Rav Kook was baki in the entirety of Tanakh and in how every word of Tanakh was used everywhere in Shas and Poskim. So Rav Kook was like a much better dictionary of ancient Hebrew than Ben Yehuda. But the word Mekudash or Kadosh means separated and elevated. There is an important connotation to know that we've learned a number of times before. Guys, come on in. That we've noted a number of times before. The notion of the word of the word Kadosh means, and by necessity implies, a heightened level of prohibition. Mukdash, okay. Right. but it's the same shorish, and it's incorrect, right? So the notion of kedusha in general means isur. There we go, Baruch Hashem. The notion of kedusha always means isur. So crash course in the word kedusha, just important to know. When the Rosh Beis Din says mekudash, it means that this is mekudash, which means something has now been declared kadosh. Kadosh always means some level of isur. It is now removed to a certain extent from permissibility. So, for example, days of the year. There are days of the year that are called chol. Today is chol, right? Monday night, it's chol. Chol means that the day does not have any inherent kedusha or therefore isurim. You jump up a little step to Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh has an isur malacha for women. It's a minhag. It's a question how it's practiced, when it's practiced, fine. But there is a slight level of isur malacha. When it gets to Chol HaMoed is a slightly higher level of kedusha. It's both chol and moed, right? It's festival and also weekday. So there are isurim. You can't do a malacha midaraisa. You can't do any biblical labor on Chol HaMoed unless it's for the Yom Tov itself or something that you are going to lose money if you don't, which is basically everything. But meaning people go to work on Chol HaMoed.
Or lose your job.
Right, that's davar of it. Correct. That's all davar of it. What it does mean is that unnecessary hobby projects should not be done on Chol HaMoed. That's a level of isur malacha. Yom Tov is a level of kedusha that's higher than that. It's a high level of kedusha. Since it is a higher level of kedusha, there are much more isurim, right? Many more isurim. You have 39 malachas minus 2. Which 2 malachas can you do on Yom Tov? Cooking and carrying, right? Cooking and carrying. You can do those 2 things on Yom Tov. Shabbos has all 39 malachas. That's a high level of kedusha. And then Yom Kippur is an even higher level of kedusha, because not only can you not do all the malachas that you can't do on Shabbos, but also you can't eat, you can't drink, can't bathe, right? And this is a high level of isurim. So in time, the more mekudash you are, the more isurim apply. People, for example, you have a nachri, a non-Jew does not have kedushas Yisrael. Non-Jew doesn't have any isurim that apply to them in terms of their status as people, right? There's no inherent kedusha in terms of the isurim that a non-Jew is not allowed to get married to, for example.
They still have something.
They have, correct. Sheva mitzvahs ben Enoch. No, it's not 0, meaning, but that's the beginning level, right? Meaning the same day of the weekday, you can't like murder people, right? But then a Jew has a higher level of kedusha, a higher level of kedusha than an achar, which means that there's a higher level of isur, of prohibition, right? A high level of prohibition. Specifically, you went from 7 mitzvahs, 6 of them being negative mitzvahs, to now having how many negative mitzvahs? No, that's positive. 365. There's a lot more isurim, right? There's a lot more people that a Jew is not allowed to marry than a non-Jew. There's a lot more halachas about just stop taking marriage. Take a kohen has a high level of kedusha because there are more isurim, and a kohen gadol has even higher level of kedusha. Yes, says the Mishnah in Midos. The same thing is true about spaces, places. You have kedusha of chutz la'aretz. What kedusha is there in chutz la'aretz? None. No kedusha in chutz la'aretz. Eretz Yisrael has kedusha level 1, right? Kedusha level 1, and then even there's the Asara kedushas.
But the money earned in Chutz La'aretz to pay for Israel's
That helps. It's kosher. Kosher doesn't mean kodesh. Chutz la'aretz, outside of the land of Israel, right? Outside of the land of Israel. That's there's a joke. There's a joke that Israeli children like to say. Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim ve'es haaretz. At the beginning, Hashem created Shamayim and Aretz. So when did He create Chutz La'aretz? Right? When did He make Chutz La'aretz? That's it's a good question. By the way, the Sefer HaChinuch discusses that. That Pashtus is the beginning of Bereshis. Creation meant Eretz Yisrael. Chutz La'aretz came later, but meaning that was later when the waters are splitting and the sea gives way to dry land. That's Chutz La'aretz. But the beginning was Shamayim and Aretz, Eretz Yisrael. Okay, but Eretz Yisrael has kedusha. For example, there are certain mitzvahs and certain isurim that apply in Eretz Yisrael. You can't just pick fruit off the tree. In Eretz Yisrael, there's halachas of Orla and Shemitah and Yovel and Truma and Ma'aseh. There's all the halachas, the agricultural laws that apply in Eretz Yisrael. And Yerushalayim has a high level of kedusha, and Har HaBayis, which is not the same thing as Temple Mount. Har HaBayis is smaller than Temple Mount. Yes, everybody's familiar with this.
What?
Temple Mount is a mountain. Har HaBayis is what the mountain used to be before Herod expanded it. It's 500 by 500 amos. The area that has the kedusha.
Center peak area?
We don't know.
I don't know where it is.
We don't know where on Temple Mount Har HaBayis is, and that part of the reason is because we don't know how big an amma is. Right?
But didn't
But
Rambam
But we're bigger now.
No.
I thought he did when he went to Israel.
Who?
Rambam.
So the
What did
there's
he
a
do when he
tshuva.
went to Jerusalem?
What?
What did he do when he went to Jerusalem?
A lot, but
He marked. He wrote it up.
we
He wrote
do,
everything.
we don't know exactly where on Temple Mount Har HaBayis is. We know where it isn't. There's areas that we know with
How does
certainty that
Rabbi
it isn't.
Goldberg go up
I think you have to ask Rabbi Goldberg, but we know with certainty that there are certain areas that are not
Is that why?
Temple
Okay,
that are
so
not
that's
Har
why
HaBayis.
People who do go on Temple Mount only go to a certain point.
Correct.
They're saying that according to all opinions from this point
Correct.
onwards, it's
Yes.
not good.
So what's that? What's there now?
Palestinians throwing rocks.
I mean, or doing other stuff, but yeah.
Where is that not?
They play soccer on the Jews over there. They play soccer.
Shualim
Where's
Hilchubay.
that?
Yeah.
Where's that area? What's there now?
Maybe Alexa,
Okay.
or maybe the shrine, but
What?
maybe the Dome of the Rock. Maybe, strictly speaking, Alexa, the Alexa Mosque, is the gray dome on the southern side.
Okay.
Right, the gray dome.
But
On the
that's not
right
even
hand
there.
side.
What?
That's not even there.
That is not on
That's
Har
That's
HaBayis.
where Harabai is.
No.
Oh, that's not.
No,
Off Arabai.
that is off Har HaBayis according to everybody.
So soccer's okay.
Right, you can play soccer there. Go for it. Okay, but in increasing levels of kedusha, you have Temple Mount, which has the din of Yerushalayim.
So no Jew goes to those areas.
I don't know if no Jew goes to those areas.
Is supposed to go to those areas.
Saying
So
people-
with the rabbi is very from.
Say what?
Let's say you can't go back.
Yes. So correct. So we just explained in the three areas that the Sefer HaChinuch speaks about of Olam, Shana, and Nefesh, in time, in space, and in people. So the more kedusha something has, correct. The more kedusha something has, the more isurim apply to it. What's the opposite of kadosh?
Tumah.
No.
But also, like, Goyim have less tumah
No,
than Jews.
no,
On Monday.
It's regular.
No. Mundane just means zero kedusha. Right? So what's that? Bracha.
What?
The opposite of kadosh is baruch. Yeah.
Creation isn't coming together.
What's a bracha?
That's
Permissibility,
I don't know.
the ability to use something.
And is it?
That's what a bracha is.
Okay.
Kedusha means removed from me,
Huh.
and bracha means
That's a wild one to me.
Yeah.
usable to me.
That was a wild one. So when we say
That's a wild one.
Baruch atah Hashem, what do we
Say
say?
it
Yes.
again.
Yeah.
Say it
What
again.
does that mean then?
So let me explain. So the Medrash Rabbah explains.
Let's record this one.
Medrash Rabbah explains that. I'm giving you very important definitions here. The Medrash Rabbah explains that. Vayivarech Elokim es yom hashvi'i vayikadesh osai. That Hashem was mevarich the seventh day, Shabbos, vayikadesh so, and sanctified it. Says the Medrash, vayivarech aleichem es yom hashvi, that Hashem made bracha for the seventh day. What was the bracha? The man came down twice on Friday. Vayikadesh so, but it didn't come down on Shabbos. Bracha means accessibility, usability, imminence. Kedusha means transcendence.
We never wish somebody Kedusha. You always wish someone bracha.
Correct. Bracha means that you should experience
The allowance.
something. You want something to come down to them. Kedusha is moving away. Bracha is moving towards. Now, this is going to get trippy because what do we refer to Hashem as? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now you're going to look at me and go like, what's this dude talking about? So let me explain. Hashem is Kadosh. Hashem is Kadosh. He is transcendent. He is Baruch. He is immanent. How is something both transcendent and immanent? Who? What does who mean? He.
Yes.
Now, in language,
Imminent
we
meaning
have
now. Like
what?
Imminent meaning
Manifested.
Yes.
Available.
Yeah.
Yeah, like here.
Whenever we speak about, well, whenever we relate to people, ideas, concepts, there are three persons that we can speak of. There is first person, ani, second person, ata, or third person. Third person is who? Who? Who means they're not here currently, meaning I can't address this. We refer to Hashem as Kudsha Brichu or HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We are saying he is Kadosh. He is Baruch. How does all of that make sense? Who? I don't know. I don't know. That is something that is not within the Ani Ata relationship. I don't know how that makes sense. I know that Hashem is both elevated, transcendent, and immanent.
So then why do you say Baruch Atah instead of Baruch Hu?
That's what I'm asking.
So,
What does that even mean?
Now, so listen carefully.
What does Baruch Atah mean?
So listen carefully. When you say Baruch, you are saying imminent. Hashem, you are come down to me. The language Baruch means, says the Nefesh HaChaim, right, it comes from one of this comes from the Abu Dram, that other means, it's the same idea. Other comes from the word berech, knee, to come down. That's what a knee does. Or brecha. What's a brecha? A spring, right? A pool. Flowing forth, right? But either which way, either Hashem is coming down or correct. Brecha is a pool. So both of these things are things that are that talk about accessibility. Hashem is coming down or he's giving forth. So that's like the passage is called Berach v'chol koima l'chal v'tishtachava. That every knee kneels to Hashem means you come down. So when we say Baruch, we are saying, Hashem, please become more imminent in my life. And when I'm talking about the imminence of Hashem, I say Atah.
Yeah.
Baruch Atah, because I'm talking to you. Get this. Then you say Yud Ke Vav Ke. That's the name of Hashem. Haya Hoveh V'yeh Adon HaKol. That's the kavanah, right? He is, he was, he will be. He's the master of everything. That is well beyond my comprehension. I've now jumped 500 billion madrigas in understanding. I don't understand what any of this is, which is why after you say the name of Hashem, you switch to third person, always. Baruch Atah Hashem, Elokeinu, our God, Melech HaOlam, Asher Kiddishanu. What does Kiddishanu mean? He sanctified us. What should it be? Asher Kiddashtanu. You sanctified us. We're just speaking to you. And we don't say you anymore. Once we say Yud Ke Vav Ke, we're like, I can't do that anymore. I'm not talking I, thou. I just said, Hashem, you are Yud Ke Vav Ke, Adon HaKol. You are well beyond my ability to understand. I cannot speak in first person or second person now in this relationship. I can only speak in third person. Asher Kiddishon, not Kiddashtan. Now I speak in third person.
But you do say Asher Kiddush Tanu Satav Vitzivanu.
No, Asher Kiddashtanu, never. Asher Kiddishanu. He sanctified us, not you sanctified us.
It's saying bracha is wrong your whole life.
You understand? The moment that you say Yudke Vavke, you can no longer, impossible now, you can no longer say I thou, which is also why the Beis Yaakov says, and we'll get back to the Minchas Chinuch in a moment, just some important definitions for people to know. This is why when you bow at the beginning of the Shemona Esrei, the word Baruch, what do you do during Baruch? You bend your knees. That's Baruch. Come down. I'm indicating what I would like this relationship to be about. Baruch. Ata. I'm establishing an I-thou relationship. Once I've established that there is a me and a you, then me bows to you. Come down, you. You. Not, this is, I'm a nothing, I'm a nobody. There's you. Me, you. Once you say the name Yudke Vavke, what you're saying is Hashem is, was, will be the source of everything, that which allows everything to exist. At this point in time, there is now no longer an I-thou relationship. There is only he. For me to now establish my presence, even by bowing at this point in time, is apikarsis.
Don't you kind of know that before you say Baruch?
No, the point is that we are always juggling these relationships. Hashem wants us to constantly feel both the Kadosh part and the Baruch part.
Just to remind us.
We're always experiencing all of this. In every single bracha, we're experiencing all of this. Constantly, persistently, all the time.
So God is Kadosh except for when he's Baruch.
No, he is always Kadosh and always Baruch.
And always do.
Right. And the reason is because he is
Both
who?
Kadosh and Baruch.
Right.
And the
Third person.
ability to fit him in
We
there.
can't rationalize something being both there and not there simultaneously.
And the Christians found this not confusing enough, and they had to add two more components to claim it's monotheism.
Right.
The arrogance.
Well, that's why most of them have no idea what they're talking about. Which is why in different places, different Christians have a question of, there was a question by the Rishonim of like, which versions of Christianity are idol worship. It depended on how educated those masses were. Because most of the time when you spoke to your local Christian, they didn't know scriptures because they were not entitled to. That's, yeah, what do you say?
Didn't those different aspects of the relationship determine what Kavanah is doing at that time?
Yes, always.
So like the Baruch Atah is Hashem's like it's a personal way.
Right.
That's the contraction.
Meaning this is experiential in the sense that I'm about to enjoy something that Hashem created in this world. And before I do this, this is how the Gemara in Bracha says, if you enjoy from this world without making a bracha, it's as if you've stolen from the Beis Hamikdash, which is that land of Kedusha. The heights of Kedusha, you've stolen from the world of Kedusha, because Kedusha means you are not allowed to use it, right? Bracha means I am allowed to use it. I make a bracha in order to bring this into the domain that I am going to enjoy and appreciate. Now, let's understand.
Why wasn't it there at the beginning?
Because I need to request it from Hashem. Everything belongs to Hashem, except that he gave the world to us to enjoy. For us to appreciate that relationship,
We have to invoke its
We-
purpose.
right.
Like its context.
the point of our enjoying it is to understand that there is a God in the world. That's why we need this thing. Right? It's antithetical to the way that we normally think about it. Say, I need it, and therefore I should say thank you, or please, or whatever. Hashem is saying, no, the opposite is true. I want you to know that I'm there. So you need stuff. So that way we can have a relationship. Otherwise, you go off on your merry way. You wouldn't even know that there was anything called God. So Hashem created need within human beings so that we could recognize that we are not an island unto ourselves. We're supposed to develop relationships. That's what need is there for. Now, practically speaking, what this means is every bracha is an opportunity to connect to Hashem in both regards. But it also gives you a deep understanding of when we refer to things as kadosh or having kedusha. What this means is that we are pushing it into a realm of Isser. So when a Jew makes Kiddush on a Friday night, what you are doing is you are declaring that this day is removed from my usage. I can't use this day like I can every other day. It has Kedusha. Now, it has Kedusha whether I like it or not, but my declaration is recognition of that Kedusha, and that's a din d'oraisa, biblical law, for me to recognize the Kedusha of this day. When you give a ring to your wife, that ceremony is called Kiddushin. What does Kiddushin mean? No. Correct. What's the bracha? The bracha that V'tzivanu al arayis. He's saying Hashem has commanded us v'hitu lanu es hanasuos al yidei chuppah v'kiddushin. Right, Hashem, you've told us this is who we cannot engage with sexually, and this is who we can engage with sexually. That's what you're doing. You are saying that this woman is now also to every other man and woman. That was beforehand, right? And what we're doing is we are creating a relationship of Isur v'heter right now. That's why it's called Kiddushin, right? If you think, Bachman used to joke about it, it's like, man, if you think that you're making this girl holy, you're tripping, man. It's like, what do you think you're talking about? She's now holy. Holy. That's why she's wearing white. Like, what are you doing? No, what you're saying is she's now us to everybody else. We now have a unique relationship. That's what you did here. You created a relationship. Holy comes if you work hard at it. Like, give it a few years. Like, create something holy, right? Well, yeah. Well, it's a separate mishigas, but whatever.
Is that more superstition?
Maybe. I was speaking to a Kala a little while back who I said to the only thing that you have to promise me is that when you're under the chuppah, you're not standing there with like a list of people to daven for. She's like, what? It's so beautiful. I'm like, no, you should daven for you and your husband and the future of your home. Trust me, there's plenty enough to daven for that. You're welcome to daven for everybody that you want to daven for every other day. But when you're under the chuppah, you should be thinking, I'm trying to build a world here. Not like, daven for chalim. It's important. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's amazing. But under the chuppah, you have plenty enough to daven for you and your husband. And you need to understand that at this point in time, there's a lot to create. And the goal is not to, become a Tehillim Zaga under the chuppah. Yeah, and you see this, like the bride's like running around the groom, going, blah, 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 blah. Just think for a second, I'm about to create a Jewish home. Like, be in the moment there. Like, be present for that second of, no, okay, rant over. Maybe for now, whatever. But you understand, that's what Kadosh means. That's what Baruch means. Kadosh, Baruch. Everybody with me on this?
Just can't get over the fact that this is the first time I've worked with Baruch.
Okay, good. I'm glad.
Why did I teach this?
I don't know. I'm teaching. This is what Kedusha means. This is what Bracha means. When we refer to Hashem as Kadosh, 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 what does that mean?
Super kadosh.
Transcendent.
Shkoyach. Ma ze omer?
Elevated beyond elevation.
And
it's technically the Malachim saying Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. So it's them saying he's elevated.
We're just quoting.
Way out there.
I mean, so if the Holy of Holies is two of those, the third layer, right? Like it's just
Exactly.
above anything manifested on this
Well,
earth.
Super spitz holy.
Doesn't it relate to the three different things you just spoke about? Time, space, and people.
so let's explain, because we say this in davening every single day. We translate it. We translate Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh every single day. Yeah, right. The Malachim, they talk to each other. They call out to each other. They say Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Hashem tzvakos malach al aretz kavoda. Holy, 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 Lord of hosts. The whole world is filled with his glory. You don't want to translate any of that? Good. The Targum tells us as follows. What it means, mekabelin dein min dein, they receive from each other. Meaning they do this with permission, the malachim. They don't jump on each other's toes. V'amrin, and they say, Kadish b'shmei mirama ila'a be'shchintei. Hashem is kadosh, he is transcendent in shamayim. In shamayim, in the spiritual worlds, in the ethereal worlds. Hashem is transcendent. Kadish al ar'a ovad gvurtei. Hashem is transcendent in the physical world. Kadish la'alam al me'al maya, and he is transcendent throughout time, which is close to what you're saying. But Hashem is more kadosh than anything ruchni, anything spiritual. He's more kadosh than anything gashmi, and he's more kadosh than anything throughout time, in all time. Hashem is kadosh absolutely. There's absolute kedusha to Hashem. That's what it means, kadosh, kadosh, kadosh. That there is nothing ever anywhere that's more kadosh than the Rebbe Hashem, that's more transcendent than Hashem. And then Vatisayni Ruach B'Shema Charai Kol Rash Gadol, and then Baruch Kavod Hashem Imkama. What is Baruch Kavod Hashem Imkama? Brich Yikara Hashem Ma'atar Beishchintei. What does that mean? Brich Yikara, the beauty, the presence, the ability to appreciate Hashem Me'atar Beishchintei, from the place of his presence. Me'atar Beishchintei. What does Shchinte mean? Shchina? Presence. Presence. Brichi Kra, the Hashem Me'atar Beishchintei, from the home of his presence. Presence means I can appreciate it. That's called bracha. Baruch Kavod Hashem Mimkoma. Okay. So that's a little bit of translation. So the Rosh Beis Din says Mekudash. Now that we've declared Rosh Chodesh, now it is called Mekudash. Good. We're not going to have time to finish all of this stuff. Fine, whatever.
The other guys
I forgot. Yeah.
Right.
And the other guys come back and they say
And they
bracha.
say-
And so you have the bracha and you
No.
have Mekudash.
No, they say, they answer Mekudash, Mekudash. Right? I mean, they emphasize and they re-emphasize that this is Mekudash.
What's the bracha on Kiddush HaChodesh?
There isn't. They say Mekudash.
Do we make a bracha when Hashem gives us a command?
Meaning a bracha on the mitzvah?
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. We'll get there. I mean, did the Sanhedrin make a bracha when they were Mekadosh the Chodesh? That's a good question. The Medrash has three options. Either it is Mekadesh Chodashim, or Mechadesh Chodashim, or Mekadesh Yisrael V'Rosh Chodashim.
Which is what we say
We say that bracha on Rosh Chodesh
in the Shemona
in the Shemona Esrei. A Mechadesh Chodashim, we say Kiddush Levana. Mekadesh Chodashim, we don't say at all, which is why it's very strange that we call the whole procedure Kiddush Levana. Kiddush Levana. But okay, enough for now. We'll open up with a question, which is the next paragraph. We're not going to have time to answer this question, but we'll leave this question open because it's very kedai. And then we're going to have two mahalchim in understanding it. The question is as follows. The Rambam writes, we'll say this outside, the Rambam writes that if they weren't Mekadesh the Chodesh, if they were not Mekadesh the Chodesh, on day 30, then at the night of 31, the Sanhedrin got up from the Lishkas Hagazis. They got up from sitting in the Beis Hamikdash, and they went to make Sudas Rosh Chodesh. They went to make the Suda already. They declared it. Meaning they didn't declare it. They didn't declare it at all. It just became default Rosh Chodesh. They already started practicing. Today is obviously going to be Rosh Chodesh. And the Minchas Chinuch asked the question: if everything that we have just said requires both the calculation of the Beis Din and two witnesses showing up, regardless of what you know or don't know, then why don't you have to wait for two witnesses to show up on day 31?
Can you assume that they're going to come the following day?
Well, I'm saying it doesn't make a difference. Even if you know on day 30 that they're supposed to come, you can't declare Rosh Chodesh. You have to wait for witnesses. You need both the calculation and the witnesses. But that seems to only be true on day 30. Why not on day 31? Meaning,
Because it can't be day 32.
it can't be day 32. It's a big deal. But you know that it's supposed to be day 31 already. So you know that it's you know that it's supposed to be day 30. So if nobody shows up, okay, so you can't do it. Day 31, you're going to do it anyway. But if you require both the calculation and the witnesses, why don't we have witnesses show up on day 31? I mean, why not? You don't need them in order to prove anything. You need them for this perfunctory, somehow or another, purpose of some nature.
By them not showing up on the 30th, kind of.
So that's the question. That's the question that he opens up. I'll leave you just with one extra detail, which will explain. Alan, you'll appreciate this. In particular, how do you know that we didn't always? I mean, that they always had a calculation. That they always had a calculation. There's a pasuk in Tanakh. There's a pasuk in Tanakh that tells you that Chachamim always knew when Rosh Chodesh was going to be. What haftarah do we read when Rosh Chodesh is going to be on Sunday? What does Macha Chodesh mean?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow is Rosh Chodesh. Who says that? David says to Yonasan. Tomorrow will be Rosh Chodesh. How does David know tomorrow is going to be Rosh Chodesh? Because he had a calculation. Of course, they had a calculation. Rabbeinu Hananel points out in the Gemaras. They always had a calculation. Everybody knew there was a calculation. In fact, Rabbeinu Hananel makes a fascinating point. This is a shadow. The Tosfos holds like this, that for 40 years in the desert, they never saw the moon. Why? Not now covered. They had clouds. So how did they know when Rosh Chodesh was? A calculation. They never had witnesses. For 40 years in the desert, there were no witnesses telling them when Rosh Chodesh was going to be. There's always cloud cover.
It's a precautionary measure.
So the question is, what's the purpose of witnesses in general? That's the broader question. The Minchas Chinuch has told us, he's told us a what. He hasn't told us a why. He said you need both. But then he's challenging this, you need both, by saying, but apparently you don't need both to declare Rosh Chodesh on day 31. And Be'ez Hashem, we will continue with that question next week. Bli neder.